All right, thank you again. And it's time for us to begin the conversation on trafficking in persons. Don't forget that Nigeria has joined the rest of the world to mark the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons. This day is a day set aside to raise awareness on the dangers of human trafficking and illegal migration. To join us to discuss this conversation is former Director General of the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, Julie Okadonli, who is the Executive Chairman, Ruth Foundation, and also Chairman, Board of Trustees, United Nations Voluntary Trust Fund for Victims of Trafficking in Persons. Dolly, it's good to have you with us once again.
All right, good to have you also, Doris.
All
right, let's begin there with you, Dolly. Take us through, very briefly on what human trafficking is, its dangers, and why Nigerians, especially young people, should be circumspect.
Well, human trafficking can be described as, simply put, in a layman's term, the act of buying and selling of human beings, trading in human parts, because, it's the act of recruiting, transporting, harboring, of a person or persons. You move them from one place to another after you recruit them, and then, of course, somebody receives them and then now distributes them for what? Exploitative purposes. Now, this is done through the means of threats, kidnapping, abduction, lies, deceit, and so on and so forth, for the purpose of exploitation. Exploitation can be for sexual exploitation, it can be for organ harvesting, it can be for domestic servitude. And a lot of people fall into this trap because of the means by which, it happens. That is through the lies, the deceit, the oath-taking, and things like that. And that is basically what human trafficking is. Buying and selling of human beings, the human organs, and for slavery purposes. It's simply put, it's modern-day slavery.
Modern-day slavery. When you tell us, when we talk about things like this, it's almost impossible to believe that we are in this 21st century. People still fall victim to crimes like this, because these crimes most of the time are perpetrated by people that we know, and are also victims are also deceived and carried away in collaboration with their family members. What is the missing link here?
You see, awareness and sensitization is key. Education is also very key. Most of the time, these victims are taken from the rural areas. And don't forget, they have little or no access to the internet. They are not IT savvy. So they are really ignorant of what is going on. And most of them are not even in school. And so it is easy for these greedy traffickers to go to the rural areas to deceive them. And then in the rural areas again, they don't believe in child spacing, or having just a few number. They have too many children, no family planning. And so when someone has 10 children and someone comes up to you and gives you the impression they want to help you, I want to take your children to the city to get them jobs, or I want to take your children abroad to get them good jobs so they can take care of the family. They are so excited. And then maybe the woman is not doing anything at home. That is where empowerment also comes in. Empowerment of the rural woman. Not only the woman, even the man. So there's so many factors that leads to human trafficking. And we need to go to the root causes to make sure that we tackle it from the root causes. Then we can go upward. But awareness is key. Education is key. Poverty alleviation is also very key.
All right, incidentally, we have in the studio Doris, who is
Joyce.
Joyce, yes, who fortunately is a survivor of human trafficking. Joyce, good to have you on the program.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right, share with us your experience.
Thanks so much. My name is Joyce Vincent. I was trafficked to Egypt for a better job, and the salary was very, very attractive that I sold all my things. I even engaged. I borrowed some money to enable me to travel and make a better life. But to my own greatest disappointment, when I got there, I was being enslaved. My passport was taken by me from my traffickers, and they locked me up in the house where I had to stay for some time before they got a job for me. As they got the job for me, they took me to the place where I worked for them, and they came to claim my salary every month. The job was so terrible that I would not really wish my enemy to go or engage into that kind of job. So
let's talk to specifics a little bit. When you said the job was terrible, what kind of job were you doing?
Okay, I was into house help, working for them almost round the clock every day without rest.
Tell us some of the kind of things that you had to do.
Okay, I have to wash their rugs. Normal rug needs to take it to maybe a machine to wash. I have to pack them and wash. When they use the toilet, I have to go there. Women, when they are on their period, they mess up. We do all those things for them. We take care of their kids. They go out anytime, even at night. I work midnight, where I don't even have time for myself for me to rest.
Right, so we'll come back to you to tell us how you eventually survived this. But let's talk to Julie. Julie, how easy is it for Nigeria and other African countries, for instance, to win this war against human trafficking when some of the victims themselves, are willing tools in the hands of these human traffickers due to their desperation, to leave this country?
Well, you see, like I keep saying, prevention is better than cure. We still go back to the root causes of ignorance, lack of job opportunities, and so on and so forth. If an awareness campaign is raised in all of these local government areas and people are made aware of the dangers and consequences of human trafficking, and again, this is a global problem, remember that. So it's not a Nigerian problem. So we need to work together with all other countries that are endemic in human trafficking, where we can have joint operations and joint investigations together. Law enforcement agencies sometimes, are part of the cartel. Whether we like it or not, you cannot rule out the fact that there are some corrupt elements in the law enforcement agency that work with the traffickers. It's an organized criminal network. But at the same time, if the law enforcement here works with law enforcement in all of the countries across borders, it will make it a lot easier to fight this crime of trafficking. Do not forget that the victims are lied to. They are deceived. Nobody tells you from the beginning that you're going to work 24 hours round the clock and the person will willingly go with you. Nobody tells you that you're going to work as a prostitute and all the money you make will come to me. Nobody would ever do that. So these are, it's based on lies and ignorance. They need to hear this. So you need to carry this awareness from state to state, local government to local government. The local government has a role to play. They don't just sit back and wait for the state government to do it. The state government has a role to play. The federal government has a role to play. Everyone has a role to play. The faith-based organizations, community leaders, everyone.
But can we really achieve much with
this
public enlightenment if we do not, address those fundamentals, those socioeconomic factors that make these victims vulnerable?
They must go together. They must go hand in hand. For example, I always say this. If you go somewhere to talk about human trafficking, the dangers of human trafficking, the consequences, then there must be a solution. These are the dangers of human trafficking, but we are going to empower you. So you make it a total package. You don't just go and talk about stop human trafficking, don't get yourself trafficked, and the person you're talking to does not have anything doing. So you have to make it a total package. Empowerment and awareness campaign. They must go hand in hand.
Joy, you have been pushing this campaign for as long as I have known you for years now, and I want to ask you because I know that you have experienced firsthand all the sides, on this matter. What are some of the greatest challenges that you have come across? Because you've mentioned some. You have said that we need to work together. Security agencies across border lines have got to work together. It's not just a Nigerian thing. It's an international, it's a global problem. So what are those challenges that must immediately be addressed to help us, the whole world now, to begin to mitigate and reduce the incidences of trafficking in persons?
Well, to be honest, I'll speak from the Nigerian point of view. For me, from Nigeria, we need to, the law enforcement agencies need to work together. They need to synergize. There's so many instances where victims of trafficking have been apprehended. Rather than transfer them to NAPTIP, who has the mandate, they keep them and tell you, oh, in my law, I can prosecute, and at the end of the day, they bungle up the cases. You never hear about it. So we don't even have the data. So, for example, I don't even know what the other law enforcement agencies are doing, how many victims they rescued or where they took them to, because they don't even have shelters to keep them. NAPTIP has the shelters. NGOs have shelters, you know. So that's
there's also interagency
rivalry. Everybody wants to do everybody's job, someone else's job, you know. And at the end of the day, they do not have the tools to do this job, and they bungle up the cases. So we need to start from that. They must define the lines. Okay. This has to do with NAPTIP. Refer them to NAPTIP. It's not your business. You can arrest, yes, that is the way you work together. But refer them to NAPTIP.
Once the arrest is done,
and let them do their job. Let them prosecute, let them investigate. It's not in your place to do that. So we have that internal wrangling.
I thought the law
which is
up
a
NAPTIP,
major problem.
Have addressed this.
It is clear that is their mandate. That's the only anti-human trafficking agency in Nigeria, and it's a federal government agency. That is their mandate. But other law enforcement agencies want to do NAPTIP's job. So that already is a major problem that has to be addressed.
And we know that, when these wranglings go on, the victims,
they suffer.
Are affected.
Absolutely.
They suffer. So that brings me back to Joyce. Joyce, you're here today. You are a survivor of human trafficking. Tell us very briefly how you got out of it and how your life has changed since then.
Thank you so much. It was a call I got from my friend, and my friend told me about NAPTIP. Immediately, I called NAPTIP, and they asked me to send my information on how I travel, because when I traveled, my passport was seized from me. Thank God I have it on my phone. I forwarded everything to them. They started my case immediately without wasting time. So after then, they asked me to send my location to them. I did that. I don't know how my trafficker got to know about it. They now want to send me off now, so that NAPTIP and some other
will not be able to find you.
Exactly. So that's how they now want to sell me out. They came to the place. They actually put me to work for 3 years. Now they want to sell me, because if I was able to be sold, they will harvest my kidney, or they will kill me, or something else will happen to me, which NAPTIP will not come to my rescue anymore. So immediately, I don't know that NAPTIP and the former DG of NAPTIP.
You're talking of.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Then Julie Oka Domley, she was already on her way for me.
Were you the only one that embarked on that trip at that time you left Nigeria? Were you the only one that left?
No, we are 5 in number.
So what happened to the others?
I don't know. They were scared to come out, because I told them, let's move, let's run. They were scared, but I was the only one that took that boldness that I have to come back.
Sorry, Tiana, let her finish telling us how NAPTIP came to your rescue when you got back to Nigeria.
Okay,
then what happened after?
Then they came for me to pick me up. I quickly chatted NAPTIP that this is what is going on, because when they collected they spoiled my phone, I was just having little battery there. I told them that they came for me to sell me, or in case, please fight for me, because I might not be able to make it. Because they sold me to another country, that is Sudanese people. That is how they now tell me that to try and find my way out. If I cannot, let me run. So I actually made it. I ran, where I slept on the street that very day. Till the next day, NAPTIP was already in Egypt waiting for me.
Wow. So
immediately, the next day I tried to fix up my phone. Then I asked for Wi-Fi, I begged for Wi-Fi. They connected, and I called. She told me I should take any taxi, whatever it would cost, to locate the embassy. That was the embassy I ran before.
The Nigerian embassy?
Yes, I ran before they chased me out, because she was around, and they were able to.
Oh, you had run to the Nigerian embassy in Egypt before, and you were sent away?
Yeah, I was sent away on
Why?
the street. Because I told her that I want to go back, that this was not our agreement. I have to go back to Nigeria. They sent me that they don't have any accommodation there. I cried that day. When my trafficker caught me, they beat me off. That is where they took me to that 3 years contract. Before now, they wanted to send me off.
All right, we've read reports that most of these traffic victims, are forced to take some kind of oath Was that the case with you and your other colleagues who left Nigeria for Egypt?
No, not for me, but I didn't take any oath, but I don't know for them. I don't know for them.
All right, Julie, let's look at, this fight against human trafficking. We understand that those who drive, facilitate, and perpetrate trafficking are members of, are syndicates with local and international networks. To what extent, drawing from your experience as DG of NAPTIP, has Nigeria been able to crack down on this very, very strong syndicates?
Well, when I was DG NAPTIP, for me, there was no strong or weak syndicate. I go after who I go after. Once we get information, we work with information. For example, in her case, if we didn't get that information, we wouldn't have been able to rescue her. And she gave us the names of the traffickers. And right now, I think the traffickers are being prosecuted. So, if we get information, we go ahead and prosecute. But you see, sometimes it's a very, very tricky case because the traffickers work with people from everywhere. So they can easily bungle your case. They can easily...
Yeah, because I'm wondering, when she said she sent a message to...
I traveled to Egypt. I traveled to Egypt.
You traveled to
myself,
Egypt.
Yes.
I'm surprised how they were able to find out that she was...
That's my point. Somebody was working with them. So that is the problem. In every agency, you have those who snitch on you, those who are working against you. So you have to be a step ahead of them, to find a way around it. So I mean, we tried our best, to do what we could do, and I thank God that we saved her life and we've saved the lives of so many others.
Of course, if there is no market for trafficking, the illicit practice or business will not thrive. What kind of collaborations are you looking at between Nigeria, African countries, and the rest of the world to nip this problem in the bud?
You see, truthfully, for me, it's a very tough call in the sense that prostitution is legal in so many destination countries.
And sex is cheap.
Sex is very cheap.
Out there.
Prostitution is legal. As long as prostitution is legal, it will be very difficult because most of these girls are forced into prostitution and the men just want to go and pay their money and have sex. They are not going to ask you if you're a victim of trafficking or if you're a professional prostitute. That is the problem. So if prostitution can be outrightly banned, just like the Swedish model, if none is selling, none will buy, it will help us. Secondly, labor is very expensive in the destination countries.
Yes.
And so the demand for cheap labor is very high. And that is why the irregular migrants are used for cheap labors on the farms, in the plantations, in the mines, and so on and so forth. So you see, the demand for cheap labor and the demand for sex and the legalization of prostitution makes this trade a very, very
easy
trade to
and
very difficult trade to curb. Yeah.
Julie, you said a few things, at the onset. You talked about the issue of recruiting most of the time the victims from rural and local areas because of lack of education. They're not technologically savvy. They really don't have the information they need to have to safeguard themselves. But truly at the end of the day, no parent actually, no matter how many children they have, wants to give their child, like a saying where I come from, no matter how bad a child is, the parent does not give the child to the lion to eat as a meal. So no parent wants to do that. So even in that local area, because that is where the crime is predominantly, carried out, what are we doing? What should NAPTIP be doing? Being a former DG, what should NAPTIP be doing now in addressing that gap of education for the rural dwellers?
Thank you. That's a very important question. The federal government should ensure education is free and compulsory at the primary and secondary school level. Secondly, skill acquisition must be infused in the primary and secondary school curricula so that in the event that a child drops out from primary or secondary school, then they have a skill to work with. There must be better life for the rural man and rural woman. They have to be empowered because these are the parents of these children. So if the parents are empowered, trust me, it takes little or nothing to empower these people in the villages. Some will tell you 5,000, 10,000, 20,000. It takes little or nothing to empower them. If the parents are empowered and these children are made to go to school free and compulsory with skill acquisition, they have a skill in their hands. So even if they leave school, they have something to do. If this can be addressed, then
all right,
we're 95%.
Case is down.
All right, Joyce. Let's talk to you. Of course, you're a survivor of human trafficking. What have you been up to after that horrible, experience in Egypt?
Yeah, thank you. Since I came back, I highly appreciate the IOM.
IOM is
International Organization for Migration.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. With her help, they were able to establish me, and currently now I'm working with her in Rose Foundation.
When you say establish you, like help you settle back into the society?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, but tell me what you want to say, because you are a victim. You know how you were coerced and manipulated and deceived. And having that experience, what would you say to other young ladies out there who still think that there's an opportunity, this opportunity is one that they can take advantage of if approached?
I would tell them that they should, as she has said, they should try and have a skill. They should not engage in that kind of joint because it's traumatic. The outcome is frustrating, it's killing. They should not. There are a lot of things they can even do in Nigeria. There are a lot of work. They must not go there. Not everyone that goes there that will actually make it, because a lot of Nigeria they are dead. They are dead because a lot of things happen to them.
And nobody cares.
Yes.
All right, we want to appreciate you. We wish we could go on and on, but let's leave the conversation for another time. Of course, this is a public enlightenment campaign which will continue to go on. I want to say a big thank you to you, Joyce, human trafficking survivor. We thank you. We appreciate your time on the program this morning, and we wish you well. After that,
the best.
Yeah.
In fact, I can say that she's in good hands with
Julie Oka. Seriously, thanks to her.
All right, Julie Oka Donley, former Director General of the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons. She's now the Executive Chairman of the Roost Foundation and also Chair Board of Trustees of the United Nations Voluntary Trust Fund for Victims of Trafficking in Persons. We want to appreciate you for coming on Kakaki, the African.
It's always a pleasure being here.
Thank you so much, Julie. Always a pleasure to have you too. All right, our conversation on other issues continues, and right now we will be talking to a communication expert, Ikalo Udo, who is the proprietress of Donica Consult Public Speaking Academy.